for more, we are now joined by independent crime and violence analyst Dr. Chris de Kock and University of Free State governance expert Dr. Harlan Cloete. Remember, you can send us your comments and questions on WhatsApp to 072-110-5584, or you can give us a call on 010-594-6010, or you can also engage with us on X at Newzroom 405. All right, a very good evening to both of you, Dr. Cloete and Dr. Harlan. Thank you so much for joining us, as well as Dr. de Kock. I mean, we saw this morning the former city manager of Ekurhuleni taking on the stand there, quite heated at some point where tempers flared. Perhaps, Dr. de Kock, let's begin with you, just in terms of what your analysis was on her posture and demeanor as she took to the stand this morning.
Good morning to you and the viewers. Yeah, I must say this is basically the first time, and this is the 40th day of the commission, and basically the ad hoc committee just started a little bit after that. And in both cases, I've never seen the attitude that we have seen today. Her whole posture was something like, I mean, she didn't show any respect that I could see to the commission. She didn't address them as commissioners. I think it's important that, you know, all the other witnesses did that. And she didn't actually answer any question directly. It was a long story around all the questions. So I could immediately see that she have a mission of her own. And I was actually very shocked what I see.
Dr. Cloete, was that your analysis in terms of how the questions were answered, how she addressed the commission?
Look, good evening to you, Dr. de Kock, Katlego, and the viewers. I can only comment perhaps on some of the allegations that she had to answer to. You know, this protection of officials by seniors, you know, I've heard this before. I've had the fortune of doing research across the country in many municipalities. And some of the horror stories that we hear in many of these municipalities is the way senior officials run these institutions, almost as if it is their own. And, you know, in many cases, there are two officials that are particularly under attack, is the HR manager and the supply chain manager. And many people have shared this with me, how they are often put pressure on to either appoint a person, or when the institution wants to discipline an official, it has the protection of either politicians or senior officials. And so what she said today in a testimony, you know, some of the things did not surprise me, because we have heard this, I've certainly heard this in many municipalities, that it is out there in the open now, you know, confirms and gives the public almost an insight into the shenanigans that happens in many of our municipalities.
I mean, she spoke a lot also with regards to the questionable, improper relationships amongst employees within the department. Do you think that some of these do have an impact in terms of the culture and then how things sort of work out within a unit or a department?
I think if she knew this, you know, she is the accounting officer. It talks about consequence management. It's one thing identifying the problem. Please share with us then what is being done about this. In many municipalities, you know, these things are known, but people are not, there's no action that follows that what we know. Because, like I said, in many municipalities, there are some powerful individuals that can make your life hell. You know, one person once said that being working under manager is the closest you can get to heaven or to hell. And in many municipalities, managers run almost a fiefdom, run little empires, and people must be beholden to them. You know, there's also a big culture of fear in municipalities. You know, the more you fear your manager, the more powerful that person is. And so there certainly is a culture of no consequence in municipalities, as reported by the AG often. And a lack of will to also deal with these problems.
Dr. de Kock, I mean, we are speaking about that fear, especially amongst officials when it comes to some of those senior people that sort of they report to in most instances. Are you finding that in all the hearings, being the ad hoc committee as well as the Madlanga Commission, that we are hearing of a lot of government officials at the heart of a lot of what is going on is based on that fear?
Yeah, I think I can definitely say so. I mean, that fear doesn't only exist in local municipalities or metros. I think that fear is right through government. And this fear of senior managers, this absolute, open the doors for all kinds of things, for corruption, for these sexual relationships that we are talking about. I mean, that young ladies working in a department like that in junior positions fear too much that they can't say basically no. And they are forced into these relationships. I think we can say this is everywhere where we have government departments at every level, from national right down to local.
And just those allegations that she made with regards to the sexual harassment, the coercions, she even threw in rape there. What did you take of her bringing in these allegations, also just so early on in her making her testimony this morning?
Well, I actually thought that she tried to refocus the attention of the commission from corruption, from all of the things that happen in Ekurhuleni to this issue. But what is strange to me, especially from a criminal view, I mean, rape is one of the most serious crimes that we face in this country. Actually, the other day, a few weeks, I think even 2 weeks ago, uh, violence against women, of which rape is the pinnacle, was declared a national disaster. She talks about this. She referred to rape. She referred to all of these relationships, that some of these young officials, female officials, have children with these senior officers, but she haven't done anything about it. I mean, it is as if she watched a movie and then say, "Oh well, bad luck," but I don't agree with it. But she doesn't do as a senior, the most senior official in that Ekurhuleni metro. She doesn't do anything about it.
Dr. Cloete, I mean, she speaks about having sleepless nights over it. And when asked that, I mean, as a principal herself, she could have taken action. She was aware of this. And she said, well, there was nothing concrete on paper. All of it was just a discussion of young women that were coming to her office and complaining about some of the culture that exists within EMPD.
You know, exactly that. You know, she knew and she did nothing about it, is what she is now saying, is that she could have, because she has the power. She could have investigated this. She could have approached HR. She could have gotten an outside independent person to investigate these allegations. I think that is the problem here, that she knew about it, but she did nothing about it. And that inaction in itself, you know, speaks volumes of the culture in the institution. In many municipalities, people are loyal to one another and not necessarily to the institution. And that culture that I spoke of earlier, you know, that permeates the entire organization, where you fear these top dogs, for lack of a better word, and they run a riot within these institutions. And women in particular are vulnerable to that. I think Dr. de Kock mentioned that this power relations, it's not just confined to government, Dr. de Kock. I think it happens in the private sector as well. It's this culture in society where men have power and then they abuse this power in many instances, or women have power and then in action. We've done a study on women in local government where women come and tell us that they've reported matters and then nothing happens. And so that institutional culture of you scratch my back, I scratch your back, that we senior managers protect one another, That culture is very rampant in many institutions.
I think part of the culture that came out in her testimony today was also that of accountability, particularly with her role as the city manager. At some point, she was questioned with regards to a few of those EMPD officers who on video were seen, allegedly they were part of a syndicate that stole copper, and this then resulted with a subpoena to the department with regards to a 45 million rand fine. Now, she came back and said, well, I sent that to the legal department and it was for them to deal with. And when questioned with regards to, but the criminality that then possibly exists with people that are employed under EMPD, she wanted to shift that towards Chief Mapieye. How far does it go with regards to not wanting to be accountable for a lot that went on within the department? Would you, or did you pick up from her testimony today, Dr. de Kock?
Well, I right through the day, there was a little part that I missed. But right through the day, she doesn't take responsibility at all. Not at all. I mean, even the blue lights, the agreement between the security company, Cat Security Company, which we know is the company of Mr. Cat Balala, which gave evidence last week. And I mean, really, she doesn't take responsibility. That vehicles, and that's my biggest fear. That specific vehicles who got blue lights, who was registered under the Ekurhuleni Metro, and which we saw some footage in previous witnesses. I think it was Spies,
Yes.
Commissioner Spies, which is now in the Tshwane Metro, where these vehicles move right to an airport. It seems OR Tambo. Drive onto the tarmac next to a jet. It's not been stopped, not been searched, and there's big bags which is then being loaded into the plane. I mean, that can be the basis of drug smuggling. I'm just suggesting this could be the case. So they have serious crime implications, but she just takes no responsibility. It's as if I'm saying she's watching a movie. And she hears about all of these things, but she does nothing about it.
Well, let's just hold that thought there. We do have some comments coming through from our viewers. We've got Sfiso from Emandeni in KwaZulu-Natal. Sfiso, very good evening to you. What did you make of Dr. Mashazi's statement this morning?
Hi, good afternoon, and all of the viewers. You know, I'm very disappointed the way Dr. Mashazi, she addressed herself. Because, you know, she was showing the attitude. You know, she doesn't show that she really needs to give the commission what is required. Because in all of these things, the only thing that we need is the truth as the South African citizens. So the way she handled it, to me, she showed the attitude that turned me off. So now the problem is that with these people who have been holding the big position like she was holding, to act in that manner, hey, it's a no for me. And I think the commission need to consider this and take corrective actions against Dr. Mashazi.
All right. Thank you so much, Sfiso, for giving us your thoughts this evening. We also have Anonymous out in Tsakani. Anonymous, good evening to you. What are your thoughts this evening?
Good evening, my sister and the panel.
Hi, Anonymous. Yes, you can continue.
No, I'm saying as a resident of Ekurhuleni, based in Tsakani, the posture and the attitude of the former accounting officer doesn't come as a surprise at all.
In what way?
No. I mean, that is how she has been behaving throughout her tenure as the city manager. She never wanted to take any responsibility at all. She never wanted to take responsibility, whether service delivery, whether in malfeasance, whatever that wrong thing was happening in the municipality. She never take that. And I'm blaming the politician, because politicians, they knew, especially the politician from the city of Ekurhuleni, they knew about the kind of character of a person, but they did nothing, absolutely.
All right.
The allegation that she's making of the suspended chief of police, Mapia, being harassing women and what didn't she take her to the task?
Most certainly. Most certainly.
He said she's a person that whenever there is something that she must account, she wants to take attention from her and come with something else that is totally irrelevant.
Okay, Anonymous out in Tsakani, thank you for your thoughts this evening. We will go for a quick break and continue with this discussion. So remember, you can also send us your WhatsApps to 072-110-5584 or give us watching Newsfeed PM, the late edition, and we're discussing the Madlanka Commission, where the retired city manager of Ekurhuleni appeared earlier today. That's Dr. Imogen Mashazi. We are joined by the independent crime and violence analyst, Dr. Chris de Kock, as well as University of Free State governance expert, Dr. Harlan Cloete. So, gentlemen, before the break, we had a few callers speaking about how disappointed they are with the attitude and not coming forthright with regards to the truth. This is of Dr. Imogen, and one resident said this was not a surprise because this is the kind of leader she was during her tenure in the Ekurhuleni municipality. Dr. Cloete, do you think this speaks to the quality of leaders that occupy such positions?
Look, I think Anonymous said it very well. He said it also speaks volumes of the politicians, because if you look at a municipality, it's like a poikie, there's three legs. The politicians, they are elected by a community, and the politicians then appoint officials to run the administration. So it does say something about it. If that is the attitude that we've seen today, what Anonymous said, that is how she operated. But that means that the politicians who also had the power to act, because their role is oversight, to call a person to order. Look, she is the accounting officer. But the politicians can't stand aside and say there's nothing that we can do. They've got oversight. And they're the first point to call her to account. The third thing that this type of attitude and this type of behavior does, it simply erodes trust of ordinary citizens like you and I in local government. People are losing faith in local government because they see, that these institutions are used by individuals for their own personal gain. And so there's a lot that we still need to do to look at brand local government as an instrument of service delivery and institutional leadership. It is not the case currently.
And while we're on that, Dr. Cloete, with regards to the type of leaders, to what extent do you believe education plays a role with regards to occupying a position such as a city manager? I mean, we saw that Dr. Imogen holds both a master's and a doctorate in nursing. How much of that plays a role with regards to knowing how to run a city?
That's a big question that we ask students. Can ethics be taught? Can ethics be taught, or is it caught? And that's the big debate. You can have a professor or a PhD, a triple PhD. If you're not ethical or accountable or have those basic governance principles, then it counts for naught. And so you can have all of this, but not be ethical. A Corruption Watch did a study a couple of years back, and they found that most corruption happens in the office of the municipal manager. And so many institutions are run by educated thieves. And so what is needed in our country is ethical and accountable leadership. That is what the Auditor General says year after year after year. It is behavior. Governance is behavior. You do not steal. You make sure that when a person does wrong, that there is consequence. That is what South Africans expect. They expect institutional leadership, and above all, they expect servant leaders. Our country was built on this basis of Ubuntu. I am because we are. We're working for the collective, the greater good of society. But that is missing in our body politic. It's missing in our institutions, where people run these institutions often as if they're doing you a favor. You go to any state department, many times we hear these complaints where people just treat the public as if they are dogs. And so that culture also needs to change. What we need in this country is servant leadership, and accountable ethical leaders.
Most certainly. Well, we've got David Sikhosese out in Limpopo. David, a very good evening to you. What did you make of the retired city manager's testimony today?
How are you?
We are good, thanks. And how are you, David? What are your thoughts this evening?
No, I think the doctor, she got too much attitude, because if she knows everything before, why she didn't go and open the case in the first place before the Matanga Commission? What if the...
All right, we seem to have lost David there, but also speaking about the attitude. What do you think, Dr. de Kock, with regards to how someone really presents themselves at an instance such as this, especially after with so many witnesses? I think at this point there's been about 3 that have spoken against Dr. Mashazi with regards to how she's enabled some of the criminality, so to speak, within EMPD, particularly with the Brigadier Mkhwanazi. When she then presents herself with such an attitude, does this assist her in any way in such a commission?
No, I don't think it assists her at all. And I think the commissioners could look right through it, through this attitude. And there were quite a few instances today where they were really, where one of the commissioners told her, you don't ask the questions, I ask the questions. That's why I'm here. You see, we must regard this commission just like a court of law, and the ad hoc committee or any ad hoc committee or a portfolio committee of Parliament. When you go there, you address these people either as commissioners, as in the case of the commission, or you address them, how funny it may sound, but you address them as honorable. When I was still in the police many years ago, before I retired, you go there, sometimes it's funny for yourself, but you have to address these people as honorable because they are at a certain level. And what she's doing is not in favor of herself. But I want to add to what Dr. Cloete said. He said ethical leadership, which I agree fully with. We don't have it. But I want to put 2 further things. And in this 40 days, I've mentioned it on many, many programs as I think the foundation of all that we see in this 40 days. All the corruption, all the penetration of organized crime into police services, may it be metro or national. The fact of the matter is, I think there's 2 problems in South Africa which actually help organized crime. The one is a lack, absolute materialism, absolute materialism. Everybody wants to have 4 Lamborghinis, not only 1. And then also, out of that, come the thing of there's no patriotism at all. People are not prepared to work hard and not to get wealthy, but in interests of South Africa. There's no South Africanism that I can see. The only time I see South Africanism is if the Springboks, beat their opposition, like we have seen in the last 2 months. Really.
And that's quite worrying, Dr. de Kock. When we speak about patriotism and how we as a nation should be instilling a certain moral fiber, particularly for children that are coming up and that are growing up. And if people are looking up to those that are owning 4 Lamborghinis, like you mentioned, and not wanting to work hard to attain some of that material, it's quite concerning as a country. So with that, what do you then think it needs to be done, Dr. de Kock, with regards to, should we be focusing more on punitive actions, or do we need like a systematic overhaul in order for us to find ourselves at a place where we sort of self-correct?
I think in this 40 days, we have seen many corrupt people, and well, many of this is still allegations. Look, it's still allegations. After this commission and after the ad hoc committee, all of this will have to go to a court of law. And evidence will have to be put on the table to found these people guilty. But I think I would feel that if we can find quite a bit of them guilty of serious offenses, and they get the orange uniform and been sent to jail, then we can start to rebuild our police services and its services, not only the SAPS. Rebuild them with the good guys, which is still there. And I think they are the majority. These good guys are the majority. And I think if we can just flush out the bad elements and then start to rebuild with the good elements.
Most certainly. Let's hold that thought there. When we come back, Dr. Cloete, I want us just to expand on that rebuild and intensifying on our moral fiber. When we continue with our discussion this evening, we are looking at today's proceedings of the Madlanga Commission. Do stay with us. We'll be back after this break. All right, welcome back. We continue our discussion looking into the testimony of Dr. Mashazi at the Madlanga Commission. Today, we do have Anonymous on the line, Anonymous from Krugersdorp. A very good evening to you. What are your thoughts this evening?
Good evening, ma'am, and your panel.
Good evening, Anon. You can continue.
Yes, ma'am. Look, I've been watching this Madlanga inquiry from beginning. And I had never before ever encountered such condescending attitude from a the lady was simply of the view that she didn't owe the inquiry any information. She was evasive. She was obfuscating at some point. Generally, I was in local government for many years, and the rot is as old as time. These people, for reasons best known to themselves, when they choose to push a particular agenda, as it was evident in her evidence, that when they choose to pursue a particular agenda, they don't really care about the rules that are in place. I mean, on what basis does an accounting officer simply suggest that, considering how serious those allegations are against Mkonazi, that she had the delegated authorities? Of course, the law suggests that the powers are with the gentleman who was the chief of police, disciplinary action against Mkonazi. But the fact of the matter is, upon realizing that Mkonazi wasn't taking any action, because as she's the accounting officer, the onus is on her to follow up on the matter, because it is a very serious matter of national interest. But this, to me, the conduct in particular, is an indication that she simply does not care. I looked at her. I looked at her attitude. I looked at her body language. And those of us who have encountered people of account simply know that she believes that she's untouchable, and that is the scary part.
And Anonymous, having worked in government, as you say, and you know, then you've seen that the rot is as old as time. Would you generalize this sort of behavior with your own experiences, of course, not putting on to every government department, but from what you've experienced, this pervasive and very evasive way of dealing with certain issues, especially when it comes to accountability? Is that what you have experienced as a person working in such spaces?
Yes, personally, I can say that, and without giving away too much because I remained anonymous. What actually happens when these people look, whether we like it or not, many of these people behave in the manner that they do because they are protected from a political perspective.
Right.
And without naming any political parties, but we know who the government of the day has been all over these years. And many of the people that they place in those positions are there to protect their proxies. They are proxies, rather, and they are there to ensure that they serve their interests. And once they get in, realize that you are outspoken and you are seeking to challenge them, or you are a bit upstream for them and they don't like it much, they start targeting you. Right. And when they target you, they will formulate all sorts of stories against you.
It's quite
just
concerning.
To get you out of the system.
All right, Anonymous, thank you for your time. We are running out of time. I just want to close with our guests this evening. I mean, Dr. Cloete, we're speaking there about rebuild and just some of the attitudes that we are hearing of people that are leading some departments. Of course, like we always say, this is not everybody that sits within these positions that acts in this way, but it is quite concerning.
No, it indeed is very concerning. It is unfortunate that there are many of those, but there are also very good officials within local government that I have met, that people that really genuinely care about the people, that are interested to rebuild. And I think what South Africans want out of all of these commissions, we had the Newzroom Commission, the Matlangla Commission, we had the Zondo Commission. What South African wants is that high-profile leaders should be in orange overalls. I think that is one. We also had a moral regeneration movement years back, that we need a governance reset. We need, and I agree with Dr. de Kock, you know, we have become a 90-minute nation. We're united for 90 minutes, and we think that that is South Africa. The reality is that we are caught up in this very materialistic, get-rich-quick mentality. I must get rich as quickly as possible, and then I must flaunt that wealth so that everybody can see how successful we are. And so I think we need a redefinition of success as well in our country. What is it that we now need to do? Because we all love this country, and how do we make sure that it doesn't go down the drain? That requires, and I keep saying this, ethical and accountable leadership, not only in local government, but also in communities, in the sports clubs, in the church, in civil society. We need a new movement of servant leaders that are committed to this country.
All right. Dr. de Kock, we do have about 30 seconds. We will see the current minister on special leave, Senzo Mchunu, appearing before the Matlangla Commission tomorrow. He's already appeared before the ad hoc committee. Do you think we'll see a more refined witness in tomorrow's proceedings?
No, I personally think we will just see the same that we saw in front of the ad hoc committee. But let's see. Maybe we see a more refined witness. We will all wait for tomorrow.
Well, most certainly. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and giving us your insights this evening. That was independent crime and violence analyst Dr. Chris de Kock and University of Free State's governance expert Dr. Harlan Cloete.